So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Maureen Haney. I am part of the client services team here at Tutor.com. I primarily work with our military and government programs, and I will be the moderator for today's event. No matter what program you access Tutor.com through though, we are very excited to have everyone here to talk about our new parent coaching subjects here at Tutor.com. Times have changed, and parents are dealing with their students' education in ways that they never have before. So whether you are a parent or someone who works with students and parents, hopefully this will be some valuable information for you today. If you have any questions as we go, please type them in the question box at the bottom of the control panel on your screen. We will do our best to answer as many of those as we can towards the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter today. Some of you may know her from her starring role in our incredibly popular Student Success webinar series that we posted over the last 6 months. My colleague from our Learning Services Division, Dr. Amy Dietzman.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I am Amy Dietzman. And I am just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I started my career in education as a high school English teacher, and then I moved into K-12 leadership, where I worked in curriculum, instruction, and assessment. After earning my doctorate, my first university job was teaching an online student success course. I eventually moved into teaching education psychology courses for aspiring teachers at Arizona State University Online, where I still teach today. And I work full-time for Tutor.com. So that's my history as far as my career goes, but I'm also a mom of 2 teenage boys. One of my sons is in high school. He is right now attending school 2 days a week in person, 3 days a week remote. And my other son is in college. He's fully remote learning, but he just moved into his apartment near his university. So that's a little bit about them. But even though they're older, and maybe a lot older than some of the kids you may have and that I'll be talking about more today, I still remember what it's like to be a mom of 2 little kids and to be busy and trying to work and trying to go to school with kids at home. And so I'm going to share some of those experiences with you. And I'm also going to share just a few tips for helping your kids navigate all the challenges of this school year. Well, really every school year, but I realize that this year is quite unique and stressful for families. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about our new subject, which is parent coaching for student success. This subject for tutoring is near and dear to my heart. I have conducted a lot of webinars on student success for all ages, and I helped develop this subject for tutoring at Tutor.com. But when we heard parents asking for their own support in student success, we quickly realized that we have the expertise to help and we needed to step in. Let me preface all of this by saying, I know that every state looks different right now in terms of education. Even every grade might look different. You may have opted to keep your child home for a semester. You may be sending your child back to school full time. And I know there are many options in between. You might be a work from home parent stuck in a small space with 3 kids. You might be a parent who has to go to work and leave your child home with a caregiver to do online school. And I know the challenges are varied, and I know that all of your situations are unique and stressful. So I'm going to do my best to give you some general tips and tricks, but you may have to take some of my ideas and strategies and adjust them to fit your situation. You may also find that I give some good tips, but you need a little more, well, how does that really work for me? And that's where I'm going to talk a little bit about our tutoring subject, which is the whole point of this today. So a few months ago, I was doing some research to help teachers with online school. This was back when COVID first hit, and I came across these common goals for educators. But it hit me that this is what teachers want for our kids, but it's also what we want for our own children. We want our students to learn basic subject matter content and skills. But beyond that, we're trying to build whole people. We want our kids to have the full experiences in life. And sadly, we know that our kids are missing out right now. But let's put it into perspective. We want our kids to feel like they are accomplishing something. We want them to learn to be independent and persevere even when things are really hard. We want them to be creative and empathetic and have integrity. So if we know that these are the goals we have for our kids, then we have a good foundation to start with today. There are many challenges of online learning, and even if our education system goes back closer to what it used to be, we're still going to face many of these challenges with our children. It's just a fact. If you take a look at this list, you probably identify with most of these struggles. Self-motivation for students is a huge issue, and it continues from adolescence through adulthood. Unfortunately, if students aren't self-motivated, they may also struggle with procrastination and time management. In a recent study, pre-COVID, of parents and students working through an online K-12 program, the parents of both successful and unsuccessful students found that if their children were not self-motivated, they really struggled to find success. Parents of children who were self-motivated, fully participating, and accountable found the transition to a full-time online school to be pleasant and rewarding. In addition, students all wrestled with daily plans and schedules. In other words, managing their time. Unfortunately, there are occasions when parents just aren't able to inspire their children to be active participants in their own learning. Especially right now, it's hard to expect parents to be active in all aspects of a school day because you too are adjusting to changes and trying to work. And I'm sure you've struggled with technology at some point or another over the past several months. Maybe you've had a hard time getting your children to focus and get their priorities straight. Maybe you've struggled to focus yourself and get your own priorities straight. Regardless of where you are in your household, here are a couple of tips, just with a few of these things that I can provide for you. First of all, establishing routines is very important. So let's talk about morning routines. Make sure you have your kids set their own alarm clocks. This helps your child to learn to take more responsibility for getting up in the morning and relying less on you to wake them up. Before deciding what time to get up, have a discussion with your child about how long they need to lie in bed before they get up, how long they need to get dressed, eat breakfast, all of those things. This exercise teaches kids at a young age, you can do this when they're very young, about time management and how much time they really need to get ready in the morning. It's a good lesson to start early. My oldest son is a heavy sleeper and a night owl. He has always had trouble getting up in the morning. He wants to sleep in as long as possible. He doesn't want to take time in the morning to shower, make breakfast, and he has always preferred to buy his lunch so he doesn't have to take time in the morning to make it. So for him, getting up like 20 or 30 minutes before he needs to be out the door or before he needs to log into his Zoom meeting, that works just fine for him. But my youngest son, on the other hand, he likes a leisurely morning and he does not like to be rushed. He enjoys eating breakfast, taking plenty of time on his hair and picking out his clothes. He also likes to make his own lunch, and he always has. He's made his own lunch since first grade. So for him, a good hour and a half in the morning is preferable. As long as the expectations and routines were established for our two boys, then we let them take responsibility for their own morning. We would realize one was up, getting ready nice and early, and the other one was going to roll out of bed and run out the door. Let your kids make their own breakfast and lunch. Provide options. Set up easy ways for them to grab what they need, but don't put yourself in a place to have to get up and fix meals for your kids and fight with them about what they're going to eat and wrangle them and organize them for meals. Building independence allows them to take responsibility, and they start to rely less on you for things that they can easily do for themselves. Not to mention, it's a lifesaver for you, really. And for helping kids get organized and scheduled, try using apps. It's never too early to get your kids used to being accountable to a schedule and checklists. I always find that apps are a good way to get my kids to buy in. Time Tree, I just put there, is just one that I've used. It's an app where you can share your schedules and to-do lists across your family members. It's a good way to get kids to follow a schedule and a routine without having to nag them all the time. Also, when I talk about keeping kids active, I mean that in two ways. Keeping them active can be playing outside and exercising. We know that's important, but it can also be doing chores. Now, my son has a list of chores he has to complete each week, and we just say these need to be done by Sunday at 6. That's the guidance we give him because he's 16, but he has a checklist, and he spends a good deal of his Sunday doing yard work because that's when he chooses to do it. But we do not have to ask him or remind him. He just does it. He knows he has his checklist. That's him though. I know all kids are different. If your kids are little, teach them to contribute to your household by helping out around the house and doing small chores regularly, especially right now during COVID when you need help. Don't be afraid to increase the level of difficulty too. Sometimes we have our kids do the same chores year after year, like taking out the trash, but really honestly, they can do more than that pretty early on, so don't be afraid to try harder things and things that take more time. Be consistent. This is really important. Do the same thing every day so you are consistently reinforcing the behaviors that you expect. Then be consistent with every rule and expectation. As soon as any child discovers that there's a weak link, they will push it. But this means you shouldn't set rules that you can't enforce. If you have no intention of grounding your child for not doing their homework, then don't say you're going to, because they will quickly see a threat and know it's a threat. And if they realize that you don't always remember to check devices before they go to bed, then they're going to sneak their devices. If they realize that you don't always enforce nap or quiet time during the day, they're going to push to get rid of it. Be consistent and be strong. It will make your life easier in the long run, but it will seem like a lot of work at first. And let me say, it's never too late to say, all right, everybody, let's start over. While it's easier to set expectations, routine, and consistency at the beginning of a school year, well, this school year was nothing normal, and it might have changed for you already. I know it changed for us. And so sometimes the pitfalls don't make themselves known until later in the school year, especially this time. So like now might be the time when you need to say, reset, we got to start over. This isn't working. So we made a rule at the beginning of this school year when my son was fully remote learning that we would check his work every day before we would let him play video games. And I'll tell you, that went out the window when it always seemed like we were in meetings in the afternoons. And that's when he would come to us and be like, hey, I finished my work, and we didn't have time to look. So I changed that rule and I told him, okay, I'm going to check your grades every week. And remember, this is important. Kids are resilient. You will not ruin them, and they will still learn all the basic skills they need in life, even if they are remote learning for another semester. Kids all over the US are in the same boat here. They are all dealing with some weirdness in terms of school, and they are all going to bounce back together. So with so many unknowns in the world, make your home feel safe and secure by keeping communication open, and stay calm. The more upset you get about school and the world, the more stressed out your kids are going to get about it. And if your kids are young, try not to talk about the virus and the latest news in front of them, because the anxiety they already feel is probably more than they can handle right now. And if they are old enough to be on any kind of social media or they follow the news, then just set the tone for their reaction to it. Focus on the right now and what you can control. You can control the schedule and the routine in your house, and you can control how the school day goes if your kids are remote learning. So focus on that and try not to be too worried about test scores and next semester and what your child's missing out on and the news and elections and all those things. If you can't see people in person, another little tidbit is, you've probably already done this, but have Zoom calls with them. Let your kids play video games with their friends online. I kind of hated that. I used to hate that, but now it's my son's way of having a social life. And so we're kind of cool with it. And create a new normal. Model positive thinking. There are a lot of positives about being together as a family, not having to commute, not having the stress of a family calendar that fills up too fast. Whatever positives you can find, if you can still find them right now, I know we're many months in, share them with your kids. We actually started talking about the positives in our family meetings, which we started back in March. Back when both of our boys were home with us, We wanted to give our kids a space to talk about what was bothering them or worrying them, and we tried to turn the conversations positive at the end. We asked our kids what they liked about quarantine and what they needed from us, and we were pretty surprised at how honest the conversations were, and really found that our kids had the ability to see the positive in what was going on, and they were thankful for a lot of things. So actually, it helped us a lot. So now we have to talk about teens, because teens are difficult right now. Many teenagers seem predisposed to procrastination. Regardless if you're doing remote learning or not, teens procrastinate. It's just a thing. And while this will no doubt drive some of you crazy, try to resist the urge to micromanage. Don't try to have a rational conversation about procrastination with your child when they are in the middle of the crisis, getting something done at the last minute. Instead, discuss the situation later and ask them what led to the last minute crunch, and have your child come up with a better solution. Put it on them to come up with what they could do better. Develop an action plan and help them figure out how they can apply it to their next project or their next test so that they'll avoid procrastinating again. But beware, they will do it again. And not all children are taught studying strategies, which only catches up with them. And this is an area where they may need your help, and even where you may need the help of a parent coaching tutor. When I was teaching high school, I encountered many parents who would let their child miss school or come to school late on days when big papers or projects were due. Don't let your child get away with this behavior. Let them miss school only when they are sick. Teach them accountability and teach them to understand that a deadline is a deadline. Don't let your kids cherry pick when they will go to school. If your teen is remote learning at home, make sure they show up to their live lectures or conference calls with their teachers, and ensure that they are turning most of their assignments in on time. And when I say most, all teenagers turn things in late here and there. And don't forget that your teen has different priorities than you do. You've had years of work experience to realize the importance of showing up on time or facing the consequence. But your teen is still learning that importance, and with this pandemic, they may really be struggling to figure out what is important and why. So this brings me to this issue, all-important issue today, of parent coaching. How can you get help as a parent so you can help your children to be successful? Or so you can try some of the tips I just gave you. Our new parent coaching for student success includes tutoring for all of these subjects: scheduling and organization, setting expectations, studying techniques, using resources, motivation and goals. One of the things I talked about earlier was self-motivation and how it's so important for your child and their education. The best way for your child to be self-motivated is if they have goals. And they need to be their goals that they find motivating and rewarding, and not your goals. And that's hard to do because sometimes we just think our kids get it and they have the same goals we do, and they don't. Our tutors can help you navigate that. We can also help you with managing knowledge gaps and finding balance. If you're wondering what our tutors look like, I chose an example of one of our most active tutors in this subject. Kimberly has been tutoring with us for 3 years on the side. She is a college professor with 2 master's degrees and a doctorate. She has previously worked tutoring at-risk students, and she's tutored students with no higher education aspirations. Kim is a single mom, so she knows what it's like to juggle. She loves sharing her expertise in finding balance and getting organized. And when I asked her what she loves most about tutoring student success, she told me it's nice to be able to restore confidence by encouraging them to think outside the box and focus on what works for them. And she's awesome. I have seen many of her sessions and read the transcripts, and she's fantastic. Dan is another student success and parent coaching tutor. Dan used to work in K-12 and higher education, and then he decided to go to law school and become a prosecutor. Dan tutors for us in his free time. I don't know how he has free time, but he does, because he loves helping learners with time management. And he enjoys the fact that he sees the same students over and over again and watches them gain confidence from session to session. Dan told me that he takes the experience that he has presenting cases to juries and uses that same experience to break down complex issues and help his students or parents when he tutors. Kim and Dan are just two examples, but all of our parent coaching tutors have college degrees. Many have master's degrees and doctorates. Many are parents and have worked in online education in one way or another. More than anything, our tutors have mastered the concept of helping students to be successful in school. So let's talk about what you could expect in one of these sessions. Expectations for school are more important now than they ever have because you, as a parent, are partnering with your child's teacher more than you probably ever have. And you're setting expectations and you're having to hold your kids accountable. And if you're struggling to set expectations for your child, you might log in to Tutor.com for help, and one of our tutors might walk you through developing a contract between you and your kids that includes all those non-negotiables for your house, including like how much time your kids can spend on their devices or play video games, what you expect in terms of grades, when it's okay for them to interrupt mom or dad when they're working, and what kind of chores they should be doing. This is something our tutors can help you do. It's probably been a long time since you had to study for a biology test. And if you find that every time your kids need help studying, you're kind of at a bit of a loss, our tutors can walk you through techniques and strategies to help them. For example, one of the biggest mistakes students of all ages make when it comes to studying is that they just sit down and review their notes the night before the test. Now, that is only a very small step in effective studying. Assessment is actually more effective. That means you're testing yourself or you're having someone else test you. Our tutors can help you find little ways to do this with your kids. And if you've ever felt like this, I'm sure we're way past day 5. Maybe we look even a little worse than that. If you're struggling to get your kids to buy in to the house rules, or you're having difficulty getting them motivated to get out of bed and do their schoolwork, our tutors can be a sounding board for you, and then they can help you think of ways to motivate your kids and help them set goals that they want to reach. Teens don't always look at the big picture like we do. From our experiences, we have foresight for our kids that they don't have. My son, who's now a sophomore in college, had no interest in talking about college until he was almost a senior in high school. No matter how many times I told him about how his grades his freshman year were going to be more important than his grades in his senior year, it just didn't click to him. And it wasn't until he realized that it was time to apply to college that it hit him why high school grades and activities meant something. Maybe you're having some difficulties finding ways to get your kids to follow the rules you've laid out for them. You find yourself redirecting, losing your cool, getting frustrated all day long. Our tutors can help you think of ways to give your kids choices. Providing choices makes our kids think they are getting their way when you're still getting your way. Do you want to go to bed at 9 or 9:15? They pick 9:15 and they think they've won the battle, but really 9:15 was what you planned all along. That one's easy, but there are lots of ways you can let kids make choices when it comes to their education, and our tutors can help you think through your options. And if you've ever found yourself working like this, you might need better balance. How can you keep your children busy, engaged in schoolwork, active, while also trying to do your own work? Well, you could ask a tutor how to help you find the right balance in your house. So, parent coaching for student success. Here's the subjects again. We can help. And now I'll send it back to Maureen for more details on how.
Thank you so much, Amy. And so if anyone has any questions, again, please start typing those into the question box. I just want to show everyone how they can access these wonderful parent coaching tutors. You will need access to a Tutor.com account. So depending on what program you access Tutor.com through, whether it's a benefit through your work, your local library, or if you're part of the military program, you can possibly create your own account if that is allowed through your program, or you can access these tutors through your child's account. So once you are logged in, it's exactly like selecting any other topic and subject that we offer at Tutor.com. You'll just select parent coaching from that topic drop-down menu there, and then you'll pick your parent coaching subject that you would like from the subject menu. And once you click connect now, within a minute or two, you should be connected with one of our amazing live tutors. And in most cases, I don't know how many we have that have the voice option, but some of them will be able to work with you, and if you would prefer to have the voice on, or you can also do the text chatting with them. So again, you can, next slide please, Amy. So again, if you have any questions, type them in there now, but if you think of something later or you don't want to ask your question right now, we are available anytime to help you. If you are part of the military program, you have your own address there at militarysupport@tutor.com, and everyone else can use our client support@tutor.com email address. Also, we are on social media, and you can communicate with us that way as well. Feel free to drop us a message there. And our Facebook is tutor.com. That's tutor, DOTCOM. And for military, it's tutor.com for military, FOR military. And then we have one Instagram account as well. Anyone has questions in the future, again, just feel free to email us. And Amy, thank you so much for your time today with all of this.
Thank you.
It has been amazing, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.